And we are live. Hello, my friend. This is Nzube, and you're welcome to another episode of the USA Playbook Podcast, where we hear stories of how other international students got scholarships, visas, and US jobs. This is the podcast that saves you time as an international student. Joining me today is Henry. He's a PhD student at the University of Minnesota. You're welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Nzube.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us today. Okay, so to get things started, for the people that have not met you, you can introduce yourself, tell us your full name, which country you're originally from, what are you currently doing, which state are you at the moment. Just let us get to meet you.
Okay. Thank you so much for having me on your platform. Hi, everyone. My name is Henry Chukwuma. I am a PhD student studying statistics at the University of Minnesota, Twin Cities. Well, I graduated from the Federal University of Technology, Owerri, in Nigeria, where I did my bachelor's in statistics. So I finished my undergraduate at Futo before heading to the States for my PhD program. Yeah, so
okay. So before we get there, so the next question I was going to ask is, what was your highest degree in Nigeria? And then you said bachelor's in statistics from Futo, Federal University of Technology, Owerri.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So that was my highest degree in Nigeria.
Okay.
Bachelor's.
So what prompted you to become interested in studying abroad? How did the interest get ignited?
Okay. Yeah, so it is, I would say, towards the end of my undergraduate program at Futo, I became conscious of what the future holds in Nigeria.
Right.
Yes.
What next?
What next, right? So I know there was this seminar I had. They say after school, what next? So it's like a seminar series in Futo. So that was when I felt like, well, I should go for my graduate studies. And the first thing that came to my mind is to study in the USA because I've had stories on LinkedIn. So I could say LinkedIn was a factor, because I was active on LinkedIn and I see some testimonies from people. So I felt like, okay,
I'm excited to announce. I'm happy to announce. Yeah, all those testimonies on LinkedIn.
Exactly. So I felt like, okay, this is actually possible to do. Okay, maybe I stand a chance. So that was the first ignition I had for my plans to study abroad. And then I started planning towards it mentally, before graduation. So, but I didn't really do anything until after graduation. So it's not like I did some stuff. So I didn't, I was just like a normal undergraduate student battling with their project, final year projects and everything, So, but yeah, so that was what prompted it. And I knew that given the state of economy of Nigeria, how jobs are really difficult to come by, irrespective of the degree of the class of degree that you come out with, I just knew it's not like people don't make it in Nigeria, right? People do. But I felt like maybe I stand a better chance if I should, study abroad.
Well said. Okay. So the main trigger for you was thinking about the future. And yes, what next should I do? Where will I have opportunities for my field? because you finished with a bachelor's in statistics. Yes, the question now is, what are the job opportunities for statisticians in Nigeria?
Exactly.
So you now started developing the interest of studying in the US. So now you said you put your attention towards US, but were there other countries that you also considered applied to with that you were thinking about, or was it just you were laser focused on USA?
Okay, yes. Anyways, at first, I knew that the ultimate plan was to study in the USA. That was the ultimate plan because I kind of had mentors who are already in the USA, and they've shown me the pathway, and I felt like it is something achievable. But I wouldn't say I only applied to the US. So I remember the first ever application I did was to a mathematical program in Senegal. You know,
Wow.
yeah. So it's
Wow.
EMS. It's called EMS.
Ames. Okay, yeah, I know Ames.
Exactly. So that was the first. That was the first thing. I didn't know if I really wanted to go, but I felt like it is an exposition on how to apply to schools. So I went on with it and I did the application. That was my first application attempt. It was
And
unsuccessful.
what year was this? What year did you finish, and what year was this
Okay,
application?
so I graduated 2018.
Okay.
I graduated 2018 due to some irregularities with things from the department. So I didn't start, yes, I didn't start my application process until during my service year. So because I felt like there are some basic materials I needed to start my application, and they, they were only available the period I went for service.
Okay.
So
And what year was that you went for service?
so I went for service 2019, late 2019.
Okay. 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 Yeah. Okay. So you applied to Senegal in
Yes, I
the
applied
first
to
place.
Senegal, but apart from that, I was majorly focused on North America. So I would say North America because at some point I considered Canada, but I
Okay.
didn't go through with the applications. I didn't go
Okay.
through with the application. I felt like the USA seems easier and more
Mm,
straightforward, and I wasn't going to spend much if I
okay.
should pursue the USA program. So that was the major reason why I decided that I'm going to stay away from Europe, even though I had information about the Mastercard, the Erasmus Mundus, you know, but I felt like it wasn't for me. There was so many things involved. But USA admission felt like very straightforward. Maybe I would say I was a bit lazy then because I was working. So yes, so I had a job. So I didn't feel like I had that time to write so many essays, stuff like that. So USA seemed like the most straightforward destination for me. So I pursued it with everything I had.
Okay. You mentioned Canada, but you also applied to Canada. Were you admitted in the Canadian universities you applied to?
No, I didn't actually apply. So I did the basic things that, once when you want to start applying, the school search, everything. So I did that for Canada, but then afterwards I decided not to, press further in applications because I think most Canadian universities they have application fees. Waivers don't come in too handy
Yes.
as they come for US application. So those things were factors that deterred me from pursuing Canada.
Okay. 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 So now you're considering US, Canada, but the major focus is on US.
Mhm.
Which universities, and this is still 2019, or have we moved over to 2020? Which universities in US did you apply to?
Okay, so I didn't start application until 2021,
Okay.
right? So I went for service late 2019. So my plan was to get everything I needed for the journey during my service year. Even though I wasn't able to achieve that because COVID struck, you know. So
Please tell us what you mean by everything needed for the journey, so
yeah,
that people can also get their own too.
okay. So at first, the what I planned to get first, as a student that was serving, is to get my international passport, right?
Okay.
So
Okay.
that
Yeah.
was the first that
Now.
I said I was gonna do. And
Now.
secondly, I said, oh, once I get my first alawi, as they call it, I was going to talk
Alawi
to
is
the
salary for
yeah.
those who are not Nigerians. Go ahead.
So once I get my first salary from the NYSC scheme, I was going to use it to start processing my transcript. So the first two materials I really needed to get at that point was my international passport and my transcript,
Okay.
right? And then further plans were to see if I can be able to save up money and write some standardized exams.
Okay.
So the
Like
standardized
which one?
exams are like GRE. So I considered writing GRE and TOEFL, which is
Okay.
yeah,
Test of English. Okay.
proficiency test. Yeah. So I was only able to achieve the first two during my service year because of the COVID lockdown. So then 2021, by that time I was done with my service. So I was able to, register for TOEFL. But before then, I've already had my student copy transcript.
Mm.
So my application journey started.
Okay.
So I was able to do school search, prepare a spreadsheet that would guide me to, keep track of the schools I'm interested in, the requirements, and how much I need to spend, if any. And then, yes, if any, because yes, I knew that application waiver was a thing.
Available, yeah, in the US.
I really pursued, yes, I really pursued the application waiver because paying in dollars is a lot
Yeah.
for most
Conversion
students
rates.
in Nigeria. Yeah.
Yes.
So what I did in my template was I had a spreadsheet on Excel. So I go through schools. So I search for schools that offer my intended program. So like basically, I use the US colleges or US school search, on Google. So
Okay.
once I do that, it's going to bring out some sites. Then I'm going to put the program I'm interested in. Then it's going to shortlist some schools. So all I needed to do was, according to my template, first of all, I want to know um, if they are requesting for application fee. If yes, how
How
much?
much?
So I will note it down. Yes. So it will guide
Okay.
me to prioritize. So then I note it down. So the next item on my spreadsheet is acceptance rate of schools.
Okay.
So yes, I did. I factored in the acceptance rate of schools because I didn't want to spend money on schools that the acceptance rate is very low, right?
Okay.
I mean, yeah, I know. I could have. I did at some point. I went for very high schools though, right? But I wanted to balance the profile of my applications. I wanted to have, highly rated schools.
Schools and yeah, normal schools too.
So the three criteria I chose was, first of all, the highly rated schools, like the schools that when you mention it, everybody will be like, wow, like those Ivy League schools. But I was careful. Yes, I was careful not to go for the one that would, that didn't stand any chance. Then secondly, I went for schools that were notable in my field of study, and then the schools that have high rating in my field of study. And then the third one was I went for safer schools also, just to balance my
The
application
question. Okay.
portfolio. Yeah. So I went for safer schools. So first, safer schools are like schools that, um, they are not too, most times we call it R2 schools. So they are not R1. So R1 is highly research schools.
Yeah.
They get a lot of funding from institutions and from government, and sometimes it is really difficult to get in. But there are also R2 schools. They also have a lot of funding for research, but you can't compare it to the R1.
Yeah.
And they are also like generally termed as safer schools during application. So it's something like school to fall back to when your first choices disappoint. You know,
Hmm.
yeah. So
Okay, so I just wanted to show our viewers what you meant by acceptance rates.
mhm,
So if I just backtrack this a little, this was what I searched.
mhm,
You can search for any university and acceptance rates, hit enter. Sometimes it will just show you the acceptance rate on the screen. Sometimes you will now have to like get into this website here,
mhm.
and then you can see that the acceptance rate of the University of Minnesota is 77%. So out of 100 students that apply, they admit 77 of them. Do they give 77 of them funding? That's a different conversation.
Exactly.
But at least 77 of them are being applied. So you know that there is higher acceptance rate in this university. If I want to make a big contrast on a university with a very low acceptance rate,
Mhm.
then let's check Harvard.
Exactly.
So you can see Harvard University 3.2%. So out of 100, they only admit three. Yeah, so if you are planning to apply to this kind of university or universities in this category, you know how strong your application profile has to be.
Exactly.
Yes. And
So,
then
Zile, can you search like Cornell University, because that was one of the Ivy League schools I applied to. Just like I mentioned, I wanted to just balance out.
Hmm, okay.
So
So
I
there
knew
is
the acceptance
8%.
rate was very low, but I still applied anyways.
Okay. So you also mentioned R1 and R2 universities. These are
Mhm.
also things that you can search online. R1 universities, they are highly competitive, like Harvard, Cornell, they are R1. But if you come in, your scholarship will be very good.
Mhm.
Yes, but R2, a lot of them are not as competitive. They have higher acceptance rate, as we just saw, but you might or might not get funded. And then if you even get it funded, it might be partial. It might not be complete. Yes, all those considerations too you have to keep that in mind. Okay,
Mhm.
so which universities? Can you just give us like a list of universities that you apply to in the US?
Okay. Yeah. So before I get to this list of universities I applied to. So it is worthy to mention that I actually applied for 2 years, right? So
Okay.
I didn't immediately get in my first attempt, right?
Wow,
So
nice. I
yeah,
love the fact that you said that.
exactly, exactly. So you should know that. So there is no giving up in this pursuit. So
Right.
the first time I actually had time, so that was after my service year. I was still looking for a job. So I had ample time to search for schools and do so many things, right? So, and like I mentioned, I later sat for GRE. I
Okay.
later sat for GRE, and I also sat for TOEFL.
Okay. Okay. And these were all after your service here.
Yes, after my service year. So when I wrote these exams, I've already seen the schools I wanted to apply to, right? I've already even started applications. So I
Okay.
wrote them just to be able to make my applications competitive
Yeah.
enough. I mean, at least that was what I thought. So
I'm curious to know, um, did you feel that they helped to strengthen your application though?
okay, so I'm going to get there.
Okay.
Yes, I'm going to mention it. I won't forget that. I'm going to mention it. So I got those stuffs, those exams, the GRE and the TOEFL. I wasn't sure if GRE strengthened my application because my score wasn't really what I wanted it to be,
Okay.
right? Yes, so it, it wasn't that high. I mean, people could look at it and say it's still okay, but I knew what the schools I was applying to were looking at, So I didn't think the GRE strengthened my application, but the TOEFL actually did because I scored a very high. I had a very high score in
Okay.
TOEFL,
Okay.
right? Yes. So, and I would say TOEFL was instrumental in me securing this fully funded admission in my current school, right?
Okay.
But we are going to get there. So after writing those exams, then I started searching for schools, and then the first year, which was 2021, I applied to 13 schools.
Whoa!
Yeah, so I applied to 13 schools.
Hold
I,
on. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Please, you say it again, but I really want our viewers to hear you. Yeah, because some people might just, oh, I want to just apply to one school and put in my best into this application, and yeah, I'm done. I've given my best. Yes, it's the admission is coming. I claim it. Please repeat what you said again.
yeah, so I applied to 13 schools. I actually had more that I wanted to apply, but at some point I felt like I don't have any more money, to do some stuff. So, but the good thing is, out of that 13, I think I got app fee waivers for more than half.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Application fee waivers for more than
Yes.
seven of them. So okay.
Yes. 7 to 8. Yeah. Thereabouts. I had app fee waivers. So the app fee waivers don't just come. Some wants you to attend their graduate fair. Some
Right.
wants you to do so many things to be able to get that the code for the app
Mm.
waiver. Some also need you to like write to them,
To
The
ask
first,
for it.
yes. So the first stage is to just write to the program coordinator or just write to the graduate school, you know, asking, requesting for waiver,
Mm.
app fee waiver. You could cite reasons, financial and economic reasons. I mean, everybody knows that we come from Nigeria, where things are hard and the exchange rate, the exchange rate is not funny.
Yeah. And
So
even
it,
other African countries to experience the same thing as well.
yeah. African countries, like even Indians, like
Yeah.
everybody writes for application waivers, you know.
Yeah.
Yes, people do. People do. Also, I should mention that some schools also have application waivers only reserved for US citizens.
Mm.
Some schools are gonna tell you that. I mean, they only have it for US citizens, you know. So you have to start on time to ask for application waivers because if they have, they are going to give you. If they
Mm.
don't have at the moment, they might tell you, oh, we have an app free week. So some schools also have application free weeks,
Mm.
right? It's just a week. So for you to utilize that opportunity, you must have done everything
Right.
before the,
Before that week.
exactly, have everything ready so that on that week you can be able to submit and get it for free. So yeah, that's
Mm.
it. So I'm going to list the schools that I applied to the first
Okay.
time, 2021.
Mm.
So
Okay.
so I prioritized my during that period. There were schools that you believe that I'm gonna get into these schools. Your
Yeah.
mind will tell you that I stand a very great chance.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry to say that it doesn't work that way. Your best school could be the one that you had the least chance of getting into, right?
Hmm.
Another thing you should know is that because you know someone that got into this school doesn't necessarily mean that you can get into this
You'll
school.
get in, right?
If you have similar profiles, it doesn't work that way. Anyway, so I applied to North Carolina State University.
Okay.
I also applied to Boston State University.
Sorry, hold
Right.
on. So as we are hearing him call the names of the universities, you can take notes of them. And this video is going to be on YouTube. You can always come back to it. These are universities that you can check for your program.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can check if they offer your program, if there are scholarships, and you can also apply. Please, sir, go ahead.
Okay, yeah. So I mentioned North Carolina State
Mm.
University,
Mm.
Boston State University. I also applied to Texas A&M
Okay.
University. I also applied to Purdue University,
Okay.
Kansas State University. So these schools now, they were high on my list,
Mm.
right? That's
Okay.
why I started off with them. And then I applied to Kent State University.
Okay.
So, okay, maybe before I go further, I might just say the ones that I was able to get a waiver or not, right?
Okay. Yeah, that will
North
help. That will
Carolina
help.
State
People will know.
University did not give me a waiver. I know I tried, but I didn't get one.
Can
At
you come
that
again?
time, yeah, that period, I didn't get an app fee waiver. North Carolina State University.
Okay. Okay.
So I
Okay.
had to pay. So Boston State University didn't. They were not offering waiver at that time. So
Okay.
I paid. Texas A&M, the same thing, you know. And then Purdue University, I got a waiver for Purdue University.
Nice.
But it was not that, it's not like if you write to them, they give you a waiver. So you have to attend some of their graduate fair. So there
Okay.
is something they call Big Ten Alliance or something like that. So Big Ten Alliance, you might look at, check it out. So Purdue organizes it, and so many schools come in. So you
Mm.
have a chance to meet so many schools when you Big Ten Alliance, something like that. Yeah, so that was where I met so many schools that now gave me waivers. So those schools were like Cornell.
Okay.
So
So before you
yes,
go ahead, I just googled Big Ten academic
Alliance,
and
graduate fair. So you could just add graduate fair to it. Big Ten Alliance graduate fair.
okay. So there are several
There are so
schools.
many schools that,
Ohio. Okay.
yes. So there are so many
So you
schools
have the
that
Penn State,
that's
Oregon.
the Big Ten Plus. So you can click that Big Ten Plus. So it's the Big Ten Plus. That's actually the name. So that was so through Purdue, I was able to meet schools like Cornell University.
Mm.
So Cornell gave me a waiver, and I met Portland State University.
Okay.
They gave me a waiver, and I applied. I also saw Michigan Technological University. I applied also with a waiver. Then Bowling Green State University. There was also a waiver. And then Missouri University of Science and Technology. Um, yeah. So these were the schools I was able to get waiver from through the Big Ten Plus Alliance graduate fair. Then
Wow.
the
So
other
you
schools
attended, sorry, before you continue. So you attended one graduate fair,
Mhm.
and if I counted correctly, there were about 5 or 6
Yes,
universities
exactly.
that you were able to get.
Yeah,
Wow,
exactly. So
that's so good.
when I go to their booth, I inquire about I inquire about my program, and they are always happy to talk about the program. I tell you things you want to hear. Then at the end of the day, they might ask you. You might ask, or they could tell you, oh, maybe if you submit your email address, we can email you an app fee waiver. Because these schools want you to apply.
Mm.
They want you to
Exactly.
apply. Yeah, so
Exactly.
that's the essence of the graduate fair. They are there to sell their
Yeah.
program
Program. Yeah.
to prospective students. Yeah. So I got those
Nice.
schools.
And sorry, this fair was virtual, right?
Yeah, it was virtual.
Because when you said go to their booth, someone might be thinking it's physical going to the booth. Is
Okay.
online
So it's
rooms.
virtual. Yeah. So it's virtual. So
Okay, go
they
ahead.
have some breakaway booths. So you could go to this booth and there is this school there. You enter there are representative that you can talk to
Yeah.
and ask them whatever question you have, and they will be happy to answer you. So
Okay.
I got those waivers from that graduate fair, and then I also applied to Florida State University. So schools in Florida, I think the application fee then was just $50. It was $50.
When
So
you adjust before
it's not
50.
just, you know why? Okay, yeah. Maybe I shouldn't have used jobs. But at some point I paid when I applied to Arizona State University, I paid $120.
Whoa. All right. That justifies the just.
Exactly. North Carolina State University, I paid $95 because I really wanted to get into these schools. Right? It's not like there were no other schools that were offering waivers. It's just that these schools were like top of my list. So
Okay.
what I would want to like mention to people is no matter how you feel about paying for these things, at some point you have to make that sacrifice.
Sacrifice, yes.
That the earlier you know you have this in your mind, the better for you, right? So you have to like set aside some money to like pay for some schools,
Mm.
right? Then you can now hustle for the application fee waivers for the other schools, because it's not every school that will grant you application fee waiver. And what if one of those schools that didn't grant you application fee waiver is a school that your profile really fits in and you stand a great chance, So
Of
if you
getting
don't apply,
funded.
you wouldn't know if
All
you
right.
could. Yeah, exactly.
All right. And this is exactly what happened to me too. Like KSU here, with all the things I knew about getting application fees, which are the things you've mentioned, I applied every strategy that I knew, but they said, no, we don't wait for anybody. You have to pay the fee, and the fee was $60.
Mhm.
Yeah, you have to pay the fee. So it's a sacrifice that I made, and even I had to evaluate my transcript too. For my master's, Bowling Green, I didn't evaluate. But over here, I had to evaluate. So these were financial investments that I had to make, which at the end of the day, I'm grateful I did. So as you said, yes, there are ways to get some things waived, but there might still be sacrifices that will be required.
Exactly.
Go ahead.
Exactly.
Go ahead. Thank you.
So,
I really love the fact that you're hitting these points.
yeah.
Is
So
good stuff.
then, talking about those sacrifices, remember we mentioned about some standardized exams you could write. Sometimes, I mean, there are so many schools that don't need those exams. The GRE, the TOEFL. I mean, Nigeria is an English-speaking country, right? Most
Yeah.
of the schools waive English proficiency for Nigeria. My current school waive it for Nigerians, but my department needed it
Wow.
for some reason. I don't know why, right?
Wow.
And they needed like a very high score for
Wow.
TOEFL in my
Wow.
department, even though the graduate school have said, oh, we are waiving it for Nigerians. You
Wow.
see? So that is also one of the reasons why people still go ahead to write the English proficiency test if they can afford it. You never can tell. It could just come in handy.
I'm guessing the reason might be why they requested it. Like as a TA,
Exactly.
you have to speak and relate with Americans and the students and all. So they need to be sure that you're English proficient, like with the results for them to now give you this scholarship. So in that sense, it can aid getting scholarship.
Yes, exactly. So I think it played a huge role. It played a huge role for me. You know
Mm.
why I think that was like it was pivotal to my getting the funding and the admission is because so first of all, in my entire program, um, I'm the only black and the only
Wow.
African in my entire program, masters and PhD, right? So I
Wow.
don't know their past record if in their PhD
Yeah.
program they've had an African, student. I don't know,
Mm.
right? So I also know that some other students that came in my cohort, like the Chinese and the Indians, I don't think they had their English proficiency because even as we were admitted, they were also taking an English course,
Okay. Okay.
right? So you see, maybe who knows? Maybe the English proficiency test that I had was was something that maybe gave me an edge, and they say, okay, right, maybe we should, consider this guy from Nigeria. So I'm saying it because I could have easily not submitted my English proficiency score since I'm Nigerian, you
Mm.
know. So, but I had it. So, and when they requested for a certain grade,
Minimum score. Mm.
yes, well, they wanted 100, which is quite unusual, right? But I
Nice.
had 102, right? So I was
Nice.
so happy. I was so
Nice.
happy to submit it. Yes, I
Nice.
was so happy to submit it.
When I read TOEFL in like 2017, my score was not even that high. I had a 94. Yeah,
Yeah,
I had a
I
94. It
mean, the
wasn't even that
basic
high.
you're gonna
That's
see
good.
is 79. The minimum you're gonna see is 79, 80. I mean, that's what schools ask for.
Yeah.
79, 80. That's what they ask for, right? So I don't know
Yeah, that was nice.
exactly. So
Congratulations.
mhm. Anyway, so these were the schools I applied to, right? In total, okay, I also applied to Alabama State University, right?
Okay.
Yeah. No, University of Alabama, sorry. I
Okay.
applied
I wanted to be sure of which when you said Alabama.
Yeah, University of Alabama. So University of Alabama also have an app-free week.
Mm.
Yeah, they have an app-free week. They give every application window in fall
Wow.
they have an app-free
Wow.
week. Yeah,
Wow.
so
Okay.
you can make use of
That's
it.
really good.
Yeah. So
See.
yeah, so these were the schools I applied to. So I remember earlier I told you some criterias that I looked into before making decisions to apply to these schools. I looked at their acceptance rate. I looked at how much I need to pay for app fee if they don't have waivers. And I also looked at, several things.
Mm.
Yeah.
Sorry. So
Yeah. Can you see the free app?
yeah, the Afri week. We've passed it for this year, but it's something that is good to take note of. I don't know when you'll be watching this video. University of Alabama always has an application free week. So for this year, 2024, it has passed October 7th to 11th. They are waiving application fees for domestic and international, undergraduate, graduate, online. So whichever degree you're going for, you fall into this category. Yeah. And this is so good. This is so good. All right. So please go ahead. You were listing the requirements that you were looking out for.
Oh yeah. So on my template, what I had was name of the school, the application window when it starts and when it closes, right?
Okay.
And I made sure to note the priority windows. So there is what they call the priority app window. So the application window could be from August to maybe January or February, but then they are going to tell you that if you submit your application by mid-December,
All right.
right, you are going to stand a higher chance of being considered because that is when they start, giving admissions. But it doesn't mean that if you apply by January or February, you won't get. But then it only means that they will consider people that have applied,
Earlier.
before their priority window shuts. Then the remainder of the people that they need, maybe they will not choose it from people that applied afterwards, right? So you want to be that student that always submit, before the priority window ends, so that you get a quick decision, and maybe who knows, maybe at that time you are the best. But if
Right.
you wait until January or February, you could have people that their profile is way better than yours, and they will deter your chances.
I just
Yeah.
want to emphasize what you just said concerning applying on time. Yeah, concerning applying on time. Some podcast ago, someone that came on the show, Kennedy, he gave, like, I think it was an African adage that the person that goes to the lake early fetches clean water, to make this point of applying early.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, because if you apply before the whole priority deadline, as you mentioned, out of all they have at that point, you might be the best. But if you are now waiting till the end of the whole application season, when they're considering everybody that applied, from you being the first amongst everyone that submitted early, you are now like the 10th, because other people have been working on their own application to now submit later.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, that's great. That's really great. Please go ahead. Please go ahead.
Yeah. So with those information, the name of the school you're applying, the application window, so that you wouldn't miss any deadline, and then their requirements. So some schools require 2 references. Basic is 3 references. That's what most schools, but some schools are going to tell you 2, right?
What you mean by references, just for people that are watching to understand, is also called letters of recommendation.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Please go ahead.
Yeah. So another thing is some might need transcript evaluation, just like you had mentioned earlier. Yes. So at
Yeah.
first, when I started my journey, I wanted to do a transcript evaluation. I registered with WES, tried to do stuff, but then I decided against it. Not because it wasn't necessary, right? I wanted it when I was considering both Canada and the US.
Okay.
Canada has that knack of asking for evaluation. Not all schools, right? But then US, not like some don't ask. It's just few
Yeah.
that ask.
We can get reasonable admission
Yeah.
and scholarships without evaluating.
Exactly. So because of that, I decided that, okay, whenever I meet a school that asks for evaluated transcript, I'm just gonna skip it. So, but then if you have your transcript already evaluated, then you should also list it in your spreadsheet, because you want to know the time you want to start application. You want to know the things that you're gonna get ready to submit. You want to keep it handy. You don't want to forget anything. So yeah, there are other things you could add. You could make a field if the school needs an SOP or a personal
Statement
statement,
of purpose.
right?
Personal
So
statement.
this is like 2 things that confuse students while applying. So there is statement of purpose, there is personal statement. For some schools, it doesn't matter. They think they are the same. But for some other schools, they think they are different. Because when I get to know that they are different was when I was applying to Cornell University,
Okay.
and they asked for both.
Wow.
I just had SOP. I just had my prepared SOP that have been reviewed and everything. And they asked for
Personal
both
statement.
SOP and personal statement.
Mm.
So I had to go back and start making inquiries. What's the difference? So from everything I gathered, like there isn't much difference, right? So, but you know how SOB is. You've written about yourself, motivation, about your program, everything. So when you encounter a school that wants you to split it, Then personal statement will have to focus more on your story, your personal story. Whereas the SOP in that aspect now will also talk about maybe your program and your intended program. So,
Okay.
yeah.
So I just had to quickly search because I've never heard of this before. This is my first time of hearing it, of them requesting both statement of purpose and SOP, and it's clearly, let me zoom this in a little. It's clearly shown here that
Mhm.
statistics PhD require you submit both a statement of purpose and a personal statement. That's quite interesting. Okay, okay, nice. Please go ahead. Let's
Yeah.
go ahead.
So you have to be ready for all this, so that once you start your application, you just get over it and move to the next, you know. But also before all these things, I know you must have talked about the references, the letter of recommendation. It is very important to know who is recommending you.
All right.
Very, very important, right?
Word of
I
mouth
can't
carries weight.
exactly. I can't overemphasize on that. Very important, and you have to choose the professors that are tech savvy. Maybe
Mm,
using tech savvy is like too much, but at least the professors or the lecturers that are readily available. You don't want someone to keep you for a month. You've already
right,
sent
before
the
responding.
request for the letter of recommendation. It took them over a month. You might not have that 1 month,
Mm,
given the priority deadline and everything. You might not have the 1 month to wait. And sometimes if you disturb them, it will become as if you are constituting nuisance, right? So, yes. So, there is something I learned that it is not really by professor, like the person must have the tag professor
mm,
before they can. All they are looking at is, okay, this is a verifiable lecturer in the school,
all right.
right? The department, and this person actually taught this person
Yeah.
he or she is recommended, right? And they now look at the things that the lecturer wrote on your behalf. So that is the key thing. At some point at first, the orientation we had is that, oh, go for the professor,
Professor.
gives weight. No, that's not true, right? I mean, it could be, but it is not like that pivotal. It's not so important. What is important is that this person is known to you and this person is saying good things about you. It's very important, right?
Yeah, and this is one of the reasons why it must not now be professors or even lecturers. It can even be your work supervisor.
Yeah,
The person has worked with you, so they can actually speak based on personal experience and is verifiable.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So some schools, though some schools will want you to make your academic referees to be like, if you are asked to present three, they want your academic referees to be like two, maybe one from
Okay.
your
Okay. Okay.
work. Yeah.
Workplace.
So
Mm.
it has to be a balance. They want to know, I mean, you're coming from school to school. So there is school that you are going to. So they also want to know your story, you know, the things that you can do.
Academically.
Yeah, the things that you can do as a student. Also, I would like to mention that whenever you are requesting for whenever you are requesting for a letter of recommendation, ensure to tell your recommender to, make references to your ability to teach, your ability to research,
Mm.
cite some examples where you've carried out researches and where
Mm.
you've carried out some sort of teaching. Because basically most of the funding for PhD students come from either you are a teaching assistant or you are a research assistant, right?
Even
So
for
apart
master
from
students.
academics, what else can you do? Because you need to work for the department, right? So your recommender should be confident to say that, oh, this person can teach. He has taught before. And there are people that like removing their experiences in teaching from their CV. I don't know why. Maybe they feel like, oh, it's just primary school. I thought, like, it's very important.
Mm.
Put it there. They want to know that you've had some classroom experience. They want to know that you've met with students before. You can be able to like guide students, because that's basically what you are going to be doing all 5 years. You are going to study your PhD, like major most of the time, depending on your program. If you are in mathematics, statistics, there is a higher chance that you are going to, be a T,
Mm.
like most of the time. You know.
I really thank you for saying this. Like, it makes sense, although I've never really thought about it. Like this thing of telling your recommenders to chip in your teaching abilities, research abilities. This also helps to guide that decision of should we give this student a GA or not.
Exactly.
Yeah, because that's really how funding comes to a graduate student. Yeah, either to teaching, you are grading, or you are doing research for the professor. So, wow, that's really good. I'm curious to know. You were submitting 13 applications. How
Yeah.
many recommenders did you have?
Okay, so yeah. So I had four recommenders, right? I started off with three, and then one couldn't keep up. So, some of these things that we say here is from experience, past experiences. So one couldn't keep up. Like I would send a request, and it will take over 1 month.
Oh, wow.
And when I message him, when I remind him, he'll be like, "Oh, I'm so busy. I'm this, I'm that. Yeah, I know you are busy, but we spoke about this before we
Right.
started, right?" So I had to quickly substitute him with another person who was ready, to help. Yeah. So,
So
so
you
this
went
is,
from 3 to 2 to 4.
yeah. So
Okay.
it was three. So when you submit applications, you send the three recommenders information. Two have done what they were supposed to do, and one is still pending.
Mm.
So I've waited for a long time, almost all my application. One is still pending, one is still pending. So what I did was I substituted, I added a new one and canceled the old recommend that I canceled the
Very
old one.
good. Actually.
Yes. So, and then the new one came and replaced. They took the place of the one that never responded.
Okay.
So that was it. That was the people I used in my first. So all these things were the first
Next
attempt.
time.
So let me just wrap it up. The first time. So at the whole, I don't know if your question is going to come to that, but I'm just going to mention like how many admissions I was able to secure.
Okay. Yes, please. Please. Let
So
us know.
out of the 13 schools, or is it 14 now? Yeah. So I secured eight.
You were hungry for it. Go
Yes,
ahead.
I secured admission to eight, right?
Nice.
So my top schools, the schools that I hoped on, I paid my money on, all of them did not give me admission. So they
Wow.
denied me.
Wow.
Yeah,
So it was all the others. Yeah,
exactly.
then apart from the top ones, because it
Exactly.
was,
So those top ones on my priority list did
wow,
not give me
wow,
an admission.
wow,
In fact, one
wow.
school ghosted me. One school did not even talk about the application that was submitted up to this moment.
Oh, we are
I
still
said, I
waiting
don't
for
know why.
feedback. How many years later?
Exactly. That was Texas A and M. So I don't know the reason why, right? But they never got back. I wasn't the only person. I know that there was also another colleague that applied.
The
They
same
never got
experience.
back to
Okay.
us. Yeah. So I got admitted to eight. Um, Unfortunately, it was just one that gave me a partial funding, right? So that
Wow.
was Bowling Green State University. So,
Oh,
but it was
yes,
actually,
you.
yeah, it was actually for a master's program. So you see that you can also get funding for masters, right? So
Mm.
even if it is not that common, and most times it could be partial, but I've seen people that get full funding for masters. So this is for people that might it's not always PhD, right?
All
Yeah.
right.
nowadays. But
But
PhD
then
stands
look
a
at,
higher chance.
yes, thank you. You just hit it on the head. PhD has a higher chance. If you look at scale,
Yeah,
out of all the master's program, how many of them are fully funded?
just few.
Not so, yeah, few. Out of all the PhD programs, how many are fully funded? Much more.
Almost all.
Right.
Yeah.
So if we look at scale, yes. Okay, okay. That's
So
really good.
I'm just going to use my school as a reference. So my current school now, they fund all their admitted PhD students, right?
Even
So
mine too. Like
yes,
the main headache is to get in.
yeah. So once you get in, you are funded. But
Yeah.
for masters, they don't fund all. So what all they do is every semester they just choose some master students they are going to give funding. And sometimes the funding might not be full. It could just be a 25%, which is like partial funding. You
Hmm.
just do 10 hours per week, and the rest you just cover it with your own money, right? And it's not guaranteed that if you have it this semester, that you're
You
going
have
to
it
have it
next.
next
All right.
semester. Exactly.
All right.
So, right. So
Okay.
that was the first attempt.
So
So,
these first ones, you were applying to masters and PhD.
yes, master's
Okay.
and PhD. Yeah.
Okay.
So, but I did more of PhD.
Okay.
So majority of the admissions I also got were PhD program, right?
PhD with no money.
Yeah, but they don't have money, right? So and they came from those R2 schools.
Oh, okay.
So
Okay.
R2 schools will admit you and tell you, oh, we don't have that much money for you. But R1 schools wouldn't bother to
Admit.
most R1 schools wouldn't bother to admit you if they feel like they don't have funding for you. Right. Yeah. So then I didn't bother to accept any of the admissions. I mean, of course, I couldn't afford
Right.
them,
With
right?
no
Even
funding.
partial funded. Yeah. So what I said was, okay, maybe I'm gonna do better the next application window, you know. And the next year came and I applied again, you
And
know.
this was 2022,
Yeah,
right?
2022. So I applied again, but during that period, I was very busy with work. So I was able to just apply to 6 schools.
Okay. 6 goals.
Just
So
six.
you're stepping down
Yeah,
like half.
yeah. So I applied to only 6 schools, and I couldn't meet up with the application fee waiver stuffs. Those things come like early during
Mm.
the beginning of the application window.
Application window,
So
yeah.
I was busy, so I didn't start early to apply.
You see, like
That
even this
didn't
one
mean
that we
that,
saw, University of Alabama,
yeah,
this
yes,
one has
exactly. So those
passed.
guys, I
Mm.
missed. I could have missed them if I wanted to go back to apply to it again. I could have missed them. So, but that didn't mean that I still had my priority deadline on mind. So what I said was mid-December, which I know is that most of the schools, that is when they fix their priority. I said by mid-December, I should have submitted all my applications. And that was what I did, right?
Okay.
So what it entailed was I now had to pay more in application fees. So I think out of the 6 schools, I paid application fee for 5.
Wow.
Yeah, so I
Wow.
just got
Wow.
a waiver for 1. I could afford it then though. So that was
Okay.
why
If
why
you're
I,
working.
yeah.
Okay.
So I applied, and the schools I applied to were University of Minnesota, which eventually gave me an admission, fully funded admission. I also applied to University of Delaware,
Okay.
applied to University of Vermont, applied to Northern Arizona University,
Okay.
applied to Penn State University, and then I applied to Washington State University.
Okay. Okay.
Right?
It's universities, all right.
So, yeah.
Which ones
So these
admitted you?
schools, yeah, these schools, the University of Minnesota was actually the first to reach out to me. So
Wow.
that was in January. By January, I already knew that okay, this is it for me. So they reached out to me with an offer of admission. So, but I must mention that some of these admissions don't just come, they don't just, some of them is not what you submit your application and then automatically they give you a response, yes or no, right? Some will want you to come for an interview, right?
Yeah.
In the past, the first year I applied, I had schools that called me for interview. So when they call you for interview, that means they were considering your application, right? But then they wanted to, know more about you and get convinced, depending on their school policy or departmental policy, right? So I had some schools that did that. I sat for interview and the rest.
Were
Yeah,
they all PhD?
yeah, PhD.
Right. And the major reason is because when they bring you in, they will fund you. So it's like an interview for you to get funded. That kind of thing. Because in my program too, in short, the two programs that gave me full funding when I was applying for PhD, I did interviews.
Okay.
Yes, yeah. So please, write on, sir.
Yeah. So, but the school that finally admitted me with full funding never asked for interview.
Wow.
Yeah, so they reached out and the message was, "Hey Henry, we are wondering if you are still interested in our program because the admission committee found your application, competitive and stuff like that." So I had to reply. I was like, "Yes,
Of
please."
course, I'm interested. This is engineering.
So that was it. And after I replied, in the next 15 minutes, I got a response that said, "Oh, that's nice to hear. In the next 48 hours, we are going to be sending you an offer letter with a fully funded admission." That was how it came.
Wow.
So just bear it in mind that
Wow.
it is not every school that will stress you
Wow.
to go through.
Wow.
Yeah, so some schools have the different way of choosing students. They must have done their due diligence, checked everything about you, your transcript and the rest. The admission committee must have said, okay, this is that guy, right? Especially if you are considered early. So I think I was considered very early because the application deadline was December, and by January I had my, offer. Some of
Already.
my colleagues got their offer in April.
That's when I got mine too.
Exactly.
So yeah, that was early.
Yeah. So
That was
so
early.
that was it. So in 2022, I applied to 6. I got admitted to 4. I didn't
Okay.
get admission into 2 of the schools, Penn State University and Washington State University. Right, I didn't get that. Penn State, I know the reason why I couldn't get into Penn State because they wanted a GRE. I didn't want to submit my GRE. I didn't want to submit my GRE because I didn't think it was fit
I
enough.
need to help you.
Right? You know how GRE works? They work with percentiles,
Yeah.
right? So they're going to say, "Oh, we need so and so percentile in qualitative," which my course is always focused on.
Quantitative, yeah.
And how GRE works is the percentile that you had last year would not remain the same this year. So when more people write GRE and they tend to get better scores, your percentile keeps dropping. Exactly.
Oh, I didn't even know this. Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
so that's how it works. The percentile I used to apply for the first year was okay. Like I felt proud of it. I was applying. But the second time I said, no way.
That dropped. Yay.
Applying to schools that need GRE because I don't like the percentile. It's not gonna get me to anywhere.
Okay, so let me explain this percentile for people that don't really understand. So the GRE, apart from the score that you get, you will get a score. So what they are now going to do is, out of everybody that's written this exam,
within
does your score
within a specified period, it mustn't be the same month that you wrote, but it is a specified period.
All right. Out of everybody that's written within a specified time frame, where does your own score rank within that distance? So are you the second out of the 100, or are you the 59th out of the 100? So that's percentile. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So that was
You
the
got for admissions. You say you got for admissions,
yeah.
then you didn't get into
Yeah, I got
funding.
two denials. Yeah. So, but funding came for only one, right?
Wow.
So you could see from my story, you just need that 1 years.
Right.
You just need that 1 years, and it's not something that you just apply to one or two schools. Some people do. Like I know someone that applied to just two schools and got in, even two of
Mm,
them. You know. So, but
mm.
it's not always the case, right? And also, that you didn't get in the first year doesn't mean that you should give up. I know people that have applied for so many years. I mean, in Nzube, you know the testament uh, of this guy, Brain Buster, right? We
Yes.
know how many years Brain Buster applied, you
Yeah.
know, and then finally he got it right. And he now felt like, oh, I have a story to tell people, you know. Yeah,
Yeah. Sometimes it will really take a while. That's why you need to be sure that this is what you want.
exactly.
Yes. You need to be sure that this is what you want. When I decided I wanted to study in the US was 2016, but when I set my foot here for the first time was 2021.
Exactly.
So you have to work your heart that this is what I want, and you give it whatever it requires.
Mm-hmm.
Then you just give it your best, and that one yes that you need is somewhere around the corner waiting for you. Really, congratulations, Henry. Like listening to your story has been really inspiring. It's been really inspiring. Someone might look at, okay, you applied 6 schools, you got fully funded, but they forget the 13 that you did
Exactly.
and how you use that 13 to learn how to apply, to learn how to make your application strong, to really, like, there were a lot of mistakes that you made with those 13, which
Mm-hmm.
you corrected in the second year
Exactly.
of your applications. You even see that you even got more admissions. Yeah, more admissions in comparison. That's the first time was half. This
Half
one is like two-third.
to third, yeah.
Yeah, which is really good. So, congratulations. Now, I want to ask because some people might be watching this and they just finished a bachelor's degree and they also want to get into a PhD. So, help us to understand and, if possible, itemize your profile as at when you were applying for this for your university where you currently are, University of Minnesota. Your profile from bachelor's. How is it possible that you got fully funded without a master's? So what was your profile like, and what would you say made you stand out from your perspective?
Okay. Yeah. So yes, this is a question that many people ask, right? So the answer to that is my profile was just bachelor's degree, right? So I had just my bachelor's degree from Futo before coming here, right? So together with the things I've mentioned, I had bachelor's degree. Then I
Wait, go
decided,
into details, please. If you can go into details, what you mean by bachelor's degree, because 1.5 over 5.0 is bachelor's degree.
okay.
What like how was your bachelor's degree?
Okay, so I actually had a first class, right? So I
Okay.
actually had a first class, and my CGPA was 4.52. I can't
Okay.
remember. Yeah, 4.52. Yeah, I
Over
think so.
5.0.
Yeah, over
Okay.
5.0. Yeah.
Okay.
So when I converted it, when I evaluated it, when I changed it to the US, um, you know, I was having 3 points. I was, ha- I'm not too sure, but I know I had over 3.7 over 4,
Okay.
right? So there is a way to do that on West website. So you can go to West website, fill in the scores that you've gotten on your transcript, then fill it in. I mean, you must not necessarily type the name of the course before you can put in the grade. You just put in the grade and the weight,
Mm.
and then it can be able to calculate it for you. So they call it ICGPA converter. Where's
I
CGPA
think,
converter?
uh,
Yeah,
yeah,
IGPA.
calculator. And it's
Exactly.
free of charge. You just go in, put in your details, and
Exactly.
it will give you what
They'll,
it is on the 4.0 scale. Okay.
yeah, they're going to output it for you and also even send it to you on mail in case you want to keep it, right? So, yeah, so I did it just to make sure that, I mean, I have the profile to apply to schools because most schools will tell you, oh, you need this GPA to be able to apply, right? But
Mm.
most of the time, the GPA that they need is like very low. It's something that everybody in Nigeria, almost everybody that you know that did well in school, right?
Hard.
Yeah, like I had first class, second class, upper and second class lower can be able to get it. I think most schools need 2.75. The highest I've seen is 3.0.
Mm.
If there are schools that need 3.2 also, but majorly you're going to see between 2.75 to 3.0 GPA out of 4, right? So when you do your conversion, I know that most second class students are above that GPA.
2.7.
Yes, second class from Nigeria or Africa are above it. So you are good to go, right? So, but I have a first class,
Okay.
which also may
Help.
have been, you know, may have given me some advantage. I don't know, right? Then I
Yeah,
had my,
you did. You say you don't know. You did. For sure. Go ahead,
well,
please.
you know why I say this is because I know so many people that had second class and they are here, right? They did the same thing and they are here, Yeah. So, but yeah, your class of degree plays pivotal role. Yeah, it gives some element of advantage.
Mm.
To,
It's
I
not
mean,
the end of the world if you don't have a first class, but like for your case, it's helped.
yeah, it helped. And then I had my three referees, recommenders, three people that wrote me letter of recommendation. And then I had, just like I mentioned, a GRE and a TOEFL.
You did submit it for this
So the second one,
university.
okay, yeah, I forgot it. So I didn't use GRE. So for Minnesota, so I had my
Okay.
TOEFL score.
High TOEFL score, actually.
High. Yeah,
Yeah, that
high.
was good.
So 102 over 120 is like very high.
Mm.
Almost all I had like advanced scores in all the categories, you know.
Mm.
So then after that I have my SOP, which was written and reviewed by people that have been here before, that have been here before me. You give it to people, ask them to review for you, make some corrections, right? So I had my SOP, statement of purpose.
How many people will you say reviewed your SOP for you? If
Okay, so
you
I just had 2 people review it for me.
okay.
So I had to.
But the two people were studying here, so those
Yeah.
are it was a very good review.
But before then, I've like really done my homework,
Okay.
use the resources I have, try to tell my own story. When the story is yours, people that will review it will just do some just minor correction, maybe
Tweaks,
grammar.
yeah.
When the story is actually yours and unique, right?
Mm.
But it becomes a problem if you've done so many copying, right? So yeah, some plagiarism tests are going to like flag some things that you've written, all those stuff. All right, so I have my SOP. Then this my department in Minnesota, they actually wanted me to submit a a description of research.
Wow.
So yeah, it was weird because it was the only school that asked me to submit it. I didn't know what it meant then. I remember reaching out to them, asking them what should I write. They said, "Oh, there is nothing. Like just write anything." There is no benchmark of what you need to write.
Okay.
So
So
all I
this is not a research proposal.
No, it wasn't a research proposal. It's just description of research. So all I did was like, well, while in school, we've had some researches, did projects, some people did
Mm.
seminar, So all I did was I just put together, all the things that I've done that
Okay.
sounded like research, not those projects in school, my undergraduate. So I constructed it well and said, oh, this is what I did. This was how I did it. This was the study and this was the result and this is the impact. If you are the person that had publication, I didn't have any publication, If you are the person that had publication, you need to include your publication and maybe write some few things about your publication. So that was what I did for the description of research in case someone might. I know some schools will ask you to write some writing statement. Some will ask you for diversity statements. There are so many things that some schools could ask
That's for, yeah.
to write. So with my transcripts, my SOP, my letters of recommendation, my my description of research, and what else?
What of your work experience?
Oh, the work experience came in under CV, right?
Yes.
So they will need
Was
an
it relevant to what you're studying now? Will you say
no,
it played a part?
no, it wasn't. So
Mhm.
back in Nigeria, I was working in the maritime industry, right?
Okay.
So I was working in a seaport. So it
Okay.
is nowhere related to what I'm studying.
Statistics. Mm. Okay.
Right. But I still included it in my CV. It's a work experience. It adds, they know that I've been able to work in a team, I've been able to manage people.
Mhm.
So all those things adds to, your pool of experience. So those are the things that I had. And of course, my application fee. For this school, I paid $95. But
Wow.
surprisingly now, my department is giving out waivers. So I'm wondering why I didn't get it during my time. I know I requested, they told me that they don't have it. Now we are begging people to come and apply and we're going to give them waiver.
Wow. Are the waivers still on?
Yeah, it's still on. It's still on. So
Wow.
last 2 weeks, we went for a graduate fair in Atlanta. And most of the students that came there, we were begging them to, just send us a message and we are going to give them a waiver code to apply to our school, to our program.
Wow.
Yeah, my
Wow.
program this time, not the entire school. But I also know that many departments, give. So you can
So this
search for
is
School of Statistics. You can search for School of Statistics.
okay.
UMN.
Let's quickly just see how we can get there. Okay. Biological science, dentistry, design, law, management. You'll be under science.
No, we are under liberal arts.
Oh, liberal arts. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Oh. Okay. But would I see anything about will we say anything about how to get waiver code from here?
How to get waiver code. So when you get to my department, all you just need to do is message the graduate coordinator, right?
Okay.
So during the fair, we had a QR code where we wanted students to scan it, fill in their information, and then we're just gonna get back to them and with the code, right?
Okay.
But here you might not see it, but you just need to like message the graduates,
Coordinator.
and you are good to go.
Okay. So guys, you've heard it all. University of Minnesota. You can search for your program there. reach out to the program coordinator and ask for a waiver code. You say he was going out, coming for a fair. So you're hearing it from someone like you, going out for fair, looking for students. Please, will you email us? We have code for you, so that you don't have to pay this application fee. Because the truth is that these universities need students.
Exactly.
Yes, these universities need students, and you might be the next person that would come here, and they'll be happy to showcase you. You would go, you are doing something big in the society. They're asking, where did they finish from? That's praise for the university.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's praise for the university. So they are looking for students. We've covered a lot. I'm even wondering if we should get into your visa interview experience now.
That is the most important. Like, I mean, yeah, both of them are important. So I always tell people, if you want to study in the US, first of all, you are looking at getting into the school. Secondly, you are also looking at getting funding, because getting that funding, fully funded funding, is a key to your visa, right? So yes, it's as brief as that.
Okay, how was your visa interview experience?
Okay, so my visa interview experience was smooth. I remember when I was panicking, trying to prepare, trying to do mock interviews for my visa. And one of my mentors just told me that I was actually going to have a conversation with the VO, with the visa officer, given that I have a full funding and I'm going for PhD, that I shouldn't worry, that what is going to be is a conversation, not an interrogation. It only becomes an interrogation when you do not have full funding or no funding, right? Then they are now quizzing you. They want you to make mistakes so that they can easily deny that person, right? And just like he said, he predicted, that was how it was. Like, I mean, I think mine lasted for just maybe 2 minutes or less, you know. Yeah, so it was just a quick one. He was actually leading. He was actually asking leading questions.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like what kind of questions, if you
So
remember?
when I went to the window, it was like, oh, I see you are going to the University of Minnesota. Now you see how it is different from where are you going to, you know. Now he's asking, I see you are going to the University of Minnesota. I said yes. He said, are you going for master's or PhD? I said, I'm going for PhD program in statistics. And he asked me, do you have masters before now? I said, no, I just had
Bachelor's.
undergraduate degree, bachelor's. I was like, oh wow. So I also see that no, he not asked, are you going to be a TA or an RA? I see you have funding, right? So
Wow.
I said, I'm gonna be a TA. He said, nice, nice. So the next thing he now asked me was, what are my plans after
Studying.
graduation? So that was when I now said, oh, I'm going to return back to the country, because actually my school is going to employ me because of I graduated with a first class, and I'm going to be a senior lecturer. And then, before I could be done with it, he's already, stamping the.
Stamping your visa approval.
And he was just smiling. So it didn't take time. So that is why I tell people, strive to get full funding. I know it's not easy, but I mean, people get it. People are getting it. Strive to get it. Once you get it, it's going to make your life very easy to get visa. These days, visa denial is on the high rate for
Yeah.
Nigerians,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, but if you have full funding, I mean, I think it's about 95%. You stand a 95% chance of getting approved.
Yeah, but you still have to prepare.
Exactly. You are going to prepare, but
You
then
still have
you
to-
know that
You know,
I
you were
prepared. I did so many mock interviews. I was in several groups attending interviews of people reading transcripts, preparing my answers. Like you must prepare, right?
Mm.
So I'm
Yeah,
just
you take
saying
part
that
of it.
do the hard part, which is getting into the school and getting full funding. Then the other one will flow because someone that have suffered, that have labored to get full funding. I mean, what is preparing for interview that they cannot do? You know, yeah.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. It's been very, very, very insightful, very, very insightful. People that come with full funding, their chances of getting visa approval is actually high. Yes, it's higher. But he asked you, are you going to be a TA or RA? Someone that didn't know that your funding that you already that your height rating is showing, the person's already questioning it. You can't answer the difference between TA and RA as to what are you going to be doing.
Exactly.
So
So in regards to that, I have to mention that for USA application, first of all, it is easy and straightforward, right? So I encourage most students to do it themselves. Apply yourself. Even the visa, everything about the visa is also straightforward. You just go online and fill a form, and the form is all about you. There isn't like, it's not like you're going to lie on the form. You're just feeling something about you. But
myself, yeah.
most students prepare to use agents. I'm not saying that agents are not reliable. They can do the work for you, right? But then there are some questions that come in natural. Like they ask you that question, you don't even need to think about it like twice because you know that I did all these things. When
Yeah.
someone start asking you about your research or the things that you are interested in, your research interest and the thing, you don't even need to think it. You don't need to cram it because even if you don't have a research interest, during the course of writing your SOP and everything, you must have been writing something that you want to do, right? Oh, I'm interested in carrying out this research with this professor, you
Mm.
know. And then when the question comes, it will be very easy for you to say things. The VO might not know what you are saying, but most of them are psychologists.
Yes.
You know when you are struggling to answer this question, and then that element of doubt comes in. They'll be like, "Are you sure this person is really going to the US
To
to study?"
study.
Because that is their fear. They don't want people to just go there and constitute nuisance and become illegal. Uh,
Right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It's one of the reasons why I started my channel. This YouTube channel is to empower people with what they need to do it themselves. Yes, because it's just information that you need, really. The whole process is straightforward. A lot of the things that you have said today, it might not be the first time that you guys are hearing about it. Yes. So the process really is straightforward. And probably when you hear from multiple people, you hear their own different stories, then you are now learning how to do it for yourself. Yeah, because it's best when you do it yourself. It's also one of the reasons why I don't even help people to apply for, because several people reach out to me, please can you help me apply, please help me get scholarship and all that. Like, my ideology is life here is quite different from in Africa. And so that whole process of you applying yourself is training for the requirements of the life here. Because now you are a TA, you have deliverables every week. There are
exactly.
things you have to do. They are showing up. You have to do exams. You combine this with your school exams and assignments and all these things. Yeah.
Projects, yeah, everything. Yeah.
So that whole thing of you applying yourself and doing all this is training, really, so that you can get into that mindset for you to thrive when you finally move over here. And so it's been really insightful. And to piggyback on this thing that you mentioned about full funding, if I was speaking to the viewers, if you know that what you want to do is a PhD in the long run, it's advisable that you apply for a PhD even if you don't have a master's yet. Yes, some people don't want to do PhD.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's not even in this thing. So whether you say I'll get full funding or this thing, I cannot take that 5 years.
Yeah,
I cannot take the 5 extra years. I'm not interested. That's fine. But if PhD is in your plans at some point in the future, then it's good to apply to both masters and PhD programs when you're applying. Yeah, even if it's just a bachelor's that you have. Yeah. So wow, it's been a very, very, very insightful conversation. Based on your experiences so far, would you recommend anyone watching us now to consider studying in the USA?
yeah, most definitely. I mean, it comes with so many advantages, Yeah, so my advice is if you really want to get your graduate degree, you may want to consider US, right? We considered it, and I don't think we've had any regret so far,
Right.
right? Um, Life is beautiful here. I mean, it's not ideal, but it is great. Like everything you need is here.
Mm.
And then education is way, 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 way better here
Mm.
in the US, right? So, and you get exposed to so many things. You know, back in Africa or Nigeria, there are so many people that dream of attending conferences, going for some international seminars. You
Right.
just hear that people have gone to this and you will be wishing, oh, how I wish, right? When you get here, it's just going to be easy,
Mm.
right? It's just going to be easy to go to. And you have schools, department funding for your travels.
Exactly. So
Yeah,
you're traveling for these conferences and you're not paying anything because the
exactly.
government is handling your flights, your airport, your
You even, you
hotel.
even, you even get more money anyways, depending how it works. So it is they want you to go out there and learn and come back and contribute because I mean you are in the department and they consider you like an important person in the department. So they always want you to go there, grab the latest trend, showcase your work, bring the university to limelight. So they're always gonna sponsor you. So there are so many things that you can gain. And then these people are they are funding, like the schools are funding you. You're not gonna lack anything
Mm.
financially. They've calculated everything and they've known that okay, this is your cost of living, this is your cost of attendance. We are going to give you this money which will cover your cost of attendance and also, afford you the time and this thing to and the resources to do other things, right? So I will strongly advise if you want to go abroad to study, US is like a place to be. And
Right.
you can see the processes are just straightforward. Most times you don't even need to spend a lot of money. There are some people that have come here without even spending application fees, right? They spend minimum money and they are here. Once people hear of US, they believe that maybe you must have sold a company, your parents must have sold a company or some pieces of land just to get you here, right?
Mm.
Many of us that are here actually come from like a very
Humble
um,
beginnings.
middle family. Many people are even poor, like their family can't even afford, but because everything is just straightforward, all you just need to do is the information and the willingness and the motivation to do it. And before you know it, you are there, right? So I will encourage you to apply and come. Like we need people here, you know. We need people.
Nice. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. It's been a wonderful session. Let's just go through the chats. I think there are people with some shout outs and questions for you.
Mhm.
Veronica is saying, wow, from the beginning you knew what documents were required, you had a plan and then proceeded. Interesting and brilliant, Harry. Thank
Thank you.
you. So thank you very much for sharing this information. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, we received so many, like the 13 schools plus the 6 schools you apply to in the next year
Mhm.
were different schools.
Different schools.
Right.
I
So
didn't,
we received like
I didn't
19
experience 19.
different schools in this podcast today. So it's been really, 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 really insightful. Thank you. So Nikinjel is asking, please, what with a first degree in law, which STEM programs am I eligible to apply to? I don't really know so much about law. Do you have any thoughts or anything?
Not readily, but I think there are so many STEM programs that you can do with your law. And then another thing you need to know is that if you are going for a master's, let's assume you are going for a master's, it's not a rule. There is no, Kazakhstan that it has to be what you did in your first degree. I hope you know that, right? Someone can do law in his or her first degree, and for masters, the person switches to, something else in STEM.
Mm,
It doesn't matter. It doesn't affect anything, right? Even for PhD, I've seen people because in the US, your PhD, your first 2 years is coursework,
yeah.
which is something like masters, right? You are going to be taught. You are going to be taught as if you are starting those things that they felt like maybe you are supposed to know. You're going to use the first semester to brush through some things before getting into advanced. So if you can be able to demonstrate that you can catch up, I'm not sure it's going to stop you from getting in. Right. So readily now I might not be able to mention a STEM program that can easily incorporate your first degree in law, but I know that there are so many out there. It's something that you can research and you find answers.
Exactly. To research. But I really appreciate the fact that, like Angel, you're thinking about STEM. Yeah, you're thinking about STEM, although law is obviously non-STEM. So
Exactly.
you're already thinking about STEM. How can I make that transition? What will be the soft landing for me? Yes, it's a good mindset to have. And if you do research, probably a Google search, you can even ask AI, ChatGPT, and then you would also get like a response for this question. So, okay, Veronica is asking the Big Ten Plus. How did you get the various email addresses? Was it through the university website or at the Big Ten's page?
Okay,
What are
so
the various
Veronica, yeah, it was actually during the Big Ten graduate fair,
Okay.
right? So you register for it. So in my case, it was through Purdue that I get to know about it. So I registered. So during the day of the graduate fair, I attended and I was moving from different booths to the other, meeting schools, representative of different schools, and once you get there and talk about editing waiver, if they have it, they are going to ask you to drop your email address. And then after the fair, they are going to send you the code. Some of them will ask you to fill a form, you know. So that was how I got it.
Please, this Big Ten thing, I'm just hearing about it for the first time now, but it's really so good. I would really recommend everyone that is watching this to sign up for the graduate fair Big Ten Plus, because you meet a lot of schools there, get waiver codes, contact and speak to program coordinators, like get connected with them. Like it's a really good resource. Really. So yeah, it's a really, really good resource. Thank you for sharing this with us today, Henry. Okay, so Roslyn is saying in Cornell, I think it's also the same for PhD in nutrition, requesting personal statement and SOP. Okay, this probably might be like that might be just how their graduate school works.
Yeah.
So a lot of the graduate programs, that's what they require. Okay, so Blessing is asking that what R1 and R2 schools? Let me
So
allow you to take a dive at that. And
Yeah,
probably she missed it when you said it earlier.
yeah, she probably missed it. So R1 schools and R2 schools, they are just category of universities here in the United States. They are being rated according to the level of researches that they do, right? And the level of grants and funding that they get to do research, right? So the R1 schools, because they have professors that do a lot of research, so they easily get funding from government, from institutions, right, to carry out researches. So why we mention them is because R1 schools, they have money readily available.
All right.
They have funds for you for graduate students, so they can admit you and fund you throughout your stay in the PhD program. Whereas some R2 schools or R3 schools could be, struggling to be able to give you that full funding. Many of them do give, but some are just going to give you partial because their school is like have a low profile. Not that they are not good in academics or what they do, but because they don't have those professors that attract those grants and those funding to the school. So they just
Mm.
have limited money to spend on students. So that is the difference between R1 and R2 schools.
Okay. And if you Google this online, you also see them. There's a list. There's a full list of schools that are R1 and R2. Kennesaw State University, where I am now, is R2. Bowling State University, where I finished from, is R2. I think you also mentioned that University of Minnesota is R2, right?
No, University of Minnesota is R1.
Okay, it's R1. Okay, nice. So there are a list of universities online. If you just do a Google search, you would see them as well. Okay, Veronica is asking, during your application period, did you send any emails to graduate coordinators?
I sent a lot during the first year. The first year, I think I sent to all the graduate coordinators. I did. The
Oh,
second
wow.
year, I didn't bother to do that because I already knew I was gonna pay for the application fees. But I did message my current school because I didn't understand what they meant by the statement of research, the research description that I mentioned that I had to write.
Mm,
So the good thing, the key thing in during application process is to be in constant communication with the graduate coordinator, right?
right.
They are happy, they are ever happy to and ready to help you out. They could even tell you things that maybe you on your own you might not be able to figure it out,
Mm,
right? So they have those information. Anyone they don't have, they don't know, they are going to ask you to wait that they're going to ask and get suitable response for you. So yeah, I
okay.
speak to a lot of them.
They are your plug, really. I'll just summarize what you said. They are your plug. Graduate coordinators, reach out to them, build relationship with them. Yes, and quite a number of them, they are open to having Zoom calls with you.
Yeah, that's true.
So yeah, they are open to even beyond the email. They tell us, schedule a call with me, let's talk, and then you jump on that call with them and tell them your background, your intentions, and they can even better advise you whether okay, this program is good for you. You can apply. You can ask them about funding, ask them about application fee waivers. Like, really, they are your plug. Okay. Ricky Pauls is saying, okay, thank you for doing this every weekend. Thank you for also showing up as well. Jess, which school gave him the full funding? He didn't mention.
University of Minnesota.
Yeah, University of Minnesota, Twin Cities, which we shared screen here the other time. Vicky is saying, what course are you studying?
Statistics, PhD.
Statistics. Okay. Veronica is okay. I usually would ask this because of time. I just skipped it, but like the culture shocks that you had when you came in.
Yeah, so the culture shocks, yeah, there is a lot. So I must mention studying in the US is not really easy as people paint it, right? So the volume of academic workload is very high. It is
Very high.
very
Very
high,
high. Yeah, good. I love that.
especially for a PhD student that has funding, right? So you are juggling your academics
Hmm.
with your job as a TA or RA, right? So right now for me, my first year, it was really difficult for me. My first semester, I wouldn't lie,
Wow.
because this is me taking three heavy classes. When I mention heavy, they are like in Nigeria, like the courses that you must have that you are going to do in 3 semesters. So this is
Wow.
them. So for 1 semester course, they are already teaching it in 3 weeks. So
Hmm.
by 3 weeks, they are done with a course that would normally serve as one
Yes,
semester
master.
course in undergraduate, back home, right? So it's a lot of materials to write, to read, and you are going to be attending classes, even though it is not compulsory. But I mean, you are an international student. You have the pressure to have to maintain a certain GPA and to remain in status,
Yeah.
right? To be able to keep your funding as an international student. So all these things, and you are writing homeworks every week. There are graded homeworks. Like it's not just homework that you will do and they are not gonna grade it. Homeworks, and the homeworks are not just 1 or 2 questions, like a lot. So you are doing this for the 3 courses. I was doing it for the 3 courses you know, I was
Doing.
offering. And then I was also doing my TA job. So I teach, I go to class 2 times every week, Tuesdays and Thursdays. So I go to hold a discussion session, right? So I do this twice every week, and then I have to grade their homework every week. The same way someone is grading mine. So that's how I have to grade them every week you know. And then there are other things like sometimes there might be end of the semester projects where you have to do
Hmm.
some group projects, research work
Yeah.
with some groups. It's a lot. At some point, I didn't have time. So at the beginning, I didn't really have time to do anything. I just wish they extended the number of hours in a day. I mean,
Yeah.
I wanted it to become 48 hours in a day.
In one day.
It was one of the culture shock because back home, people are going to tell you that, oh, they have everything here, they have all the resources here. Yes, which they do. But that doesn't mean that education is easy here. It's not. It's quite stressful. Like the amount of stress I've been through in graduate school here, I'm not sure I passed through that in undergraduate back home. I didn't, you
Hmm.
know. Yeah.
Hmm.
So it's one of the culture shock. And I think the other one is at
And in
beginning,
addition, sorry, in addition to all these things that you mentioned, you still have your own personal life.
exactly.
Yeah, to add to all these things. So, yeah, every I think every international student that comes, because Africa we is more like a slow paced life and JJ, like people are going calmly, but by the time you are here, they are bombarding you with workload. Like, and you
Exactly.
have to keep up because if you don't keep up, you lose the funding.
Exactly. So another thing I might term as culture shock is at beginning, it might seem as if there is lack of community here, right? So those community that you are used to back home, you know how the African community is. So here at first, it could seem boring. You could
Hmm.
could seem alone, right? Because I mean, in your apartment, you might not even know your neighbors.
Wonderful, right?
Exactly. So you're just going to school and coming back and bottling everything that you are going through all by yourself,
Hmm.
right? So that is like a very important stage for graduate students because at that stage you need to find a way to get through it. Some people that don't handle it properly end up, suffering from mental health issues, right? Because at that period you might just seem alone with all your troubles, all the pressure, no one to talk to, right? So that is when, having family that always check up on you and friends that you talk to, that is when it comes in handy because
Yeah.
that period can mess up with someone's mental health, right?
Thank
So
you.
it is a
Thank
culture
you.
shock. And then the
Yeah.
weather. Minnesota is very cold. You should be warned, right? Very cold. So I knew anyways, I was prepared mentally, but I've never seen anything like that all my life. So it was also a shock.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much. All right. So Henrietta is saying first degree in accounting, still STEM course to apply to. It's the same response we'll give. Except you know some particular courses, Henry, then you can chime in. But like to do research online and then to see what is available, what options are there. Yeah, maybe or
Yeah, so
go
it's the
ahead.
same response. You could just Google it. I don't have an immediate answer to that right now.
Okay, okay. So you can check. Right, you can just get it online. Okay, Errol is saying for someone who's already in the US on a short course of 3 months, really nice. How do I go about my application for an MSc or PhD, and how would the application look like? So you want to answer that, or should I go for
Yeah,
it?
you could go ahead and answer that.
Okay, okay. So since you're in the US, you have a lot of advantages. Really, the first is that whatever program that you want to, you can physically go and see the program coordinator. Yeah, you can just go to the school premises, to the department, and go and see the program coordinator. That's one of the first advantages that you have. You can also call them. You can also call them. So on their website, wherever you see the details of the program coordinator, whether it's their that where you see their information, email, the phone number is also there. Their phone number is also there, so you can also call them. So apart from this email thing that we have to do from outside the US, if you are currently here, you have more access. So you can have those local calls. You can go see them and talk to them. But all these things won't exempt you from all these stages that we've mentioned of you writing SOP, you preparing all these documents, preparing everything, getting your transcripts. It doesn't exempt you from this. It just maybe gives you more favor, for lack of a better word, because the program coordinator that we are coordinating with is through email that we're coordinating with them. But then this one, you are speaking to them physically.
Exactly. So
Yeah,
I
right.
also have to let me tip into that. Once you are in the US, I know most schools they organize some physical they call it physical campus tour or departmental tour, right? So for prospective students. So you are still applying or you have intention of applying, there is room for you to come by to the school, come by the school or the department, and they are going to clarify you on some things and show you around. So, but apart from that, what Nzube said is accurate. It doesn't exempt you from going through all other processes that people did. I mean, is the basic thing to do. So you have to do them.
Okay, so that's really the same thing applies for you ask for master's or PhD. It's the same steps for the both of them. When you develop these contacts, okay, you can go ahead and apply. Then you now do this whole online application steps, which nobody's exempted from. All right, so I guess it's the final question I'll be able to take because of time. Libyan is saying I was contacted by a professor and he recommended me to apply for his lab. What's the chance of getting in?
Okay. Yeah. So that question, so the question said you were contacted by a professor or you contacted a professor. Which one?
He
So
was
I'm
contacted.
guessing.
It was the professor that contacted him and
Uh,
said that he should apply. I don't know.
okay. Yeah.
Let's just
So
work with what he said.
yeah. So this is how it works. So first of all, let me go with people that contact professors, right?
Okay.
So if you contact professor and you express your desire to work with a professor in his or her lab, right? Because I mean your PhD or your work is maybe research based, right? So the two responses that the professor can give you is the professor can decide to say yes or no, right? Yes, in the sense that, yeah, you can actually apply to my lab, or no. Then some will tell you that, I mean, you need to go through the graduate school, right? So different schools have different policies. Some schools will warn you not to contact professors because they don't, make the decision of admission. Whereas some will tell you, we encourage you to talk to professors because most of the funding lies on the professors. So in this case, I'm thinking that the professor is giving you go ahead to apply to his lab. So the two scenarios is if the school is the one that allows the professor to pick their students, the students that they need in their lab, then you stand a very high chance of getting admitted with your funding because the professor have already agreed that you should come to his or her lab, to his lab. But if it is a school that still needs the graduate school to take decision and not the professor, then I mean this doesn't really give you enough advantage because at the end of the day you have to be admitted into the school, into the program before you can get into the professor's lab. I don't know if that makes sense. So it's two answers. If your school allows the professor to admit their student directly into their lab. So once a professor have given you confirmation that, yeah, you can go ahead and apply to my lab, that means the professor is impressed with your profile and the professor needs you in his lab. So you're automatically going to be admitted and funded once you apply. But if it is a school that the admission process doesn't lie on the professor, so the professor is only being cautious by telling you, he's just, being nice by telling you that you should apply to his lab, right? So it's two-way. It's a
But
two-way.
that thing about him being cautious to tell someone to apply for his lab, like because when I was applying myself, I reached out to some professors. Some people will tell you that it's not in their hand. Apply for the degree. Like apply to the graduate college for the degree. Yes, you will now know that okay, it's that second point that you mentioned. But this one, he's specifically recommending this person to apply to his lab.
Okay.
So I think it's the first this thing that you said because that's also where I'll lean towards that.
Yeah.
Is this person
I've seen this scenario play out a lot of time. There are some schools that even though they are the ones that make the decision of admission, they're also going to ask, have you spoken to any professor? Do you have any choice of lab in mind? Right? So if it is a school that is like that, then apply to my lab means put me as first choice when you are mentioning the professors that you've reached out or the labs that you want to work with, right? So I don't want this person to get his or her hopes so high, right? Unless we understand the policy of the school. And it's easy for the
right?
person to know because once you go to the school website or the program website, you are going to know if if the admission is in the hands of professors. Most schools, it is biological sciences, chemistry. They need professor to say, okay, I need you for you to come, right? But if they specifically say professors don't determine your admission, then this man is just simply saying, yeah, sure, I would love to have you. You can apply. If you get in, I would love to have you. Right. So that's what I think.
Thank you so much. We are out of time now. Um, Okay, Henry, any final advice to anyone who wants to study abroad on a scholarship like you?
Well, my advice is do your due diligence. You have to spend time to search for schools. School profile is very important in this journey, right? Don't apply to schools just because you have friends that are applying to the schools or you have friends that are in that school. So the US have over 4,000 universities, right? So there are so many. Just search and you could just that one school could be that school that is looking for your profile. And
Uh-huh.
once you apply, they're just gonna, and don't give up. That you apply the first time and don't get it. I mean, there is no guarantee that you're gonna get it the first time of application. I mean, you've had the stories, yeah, but then don't give up in as much as you still retain that dream of studying in the US.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Henry. It's been a very wonderful time. How can people find you?
Oh yeah, I'm on LinkedIn. I'm active on LinkedIn. Yeah, so that is the only place
That people
I,
can find
I would,
you.
yeah, I would entertain interactions.
Okay, okay. So we've all heard from Henry. We can find him on LinkedIn as Henry Chukwuma. I would put the link to his LinkedIn in the video description below. Thank you so much for joining us today, Mr. Henry, and every single one of us. Thank you so much. It's been a very wonderful time today. I hope you learned as much as I did today about studying in the US. We actually heard about 19 universities, which is very good. Um, Till we meet again next week, keep pursuing your dreams. Remember that it's possible. Remember that it's possible. Don't give up. Don't give up. You cannot fail as far as you don't quit. So don't give up. Thank you for joining us today on the USA Playbook Podcast. Till we see you again next week. Goodbye.
Thank you so much. Bye.